This is Breaking Down Security, and I am Brian Brake. Welcome, listener. This is Brian and Mr. Boettcher for the last Breaking Down Security of the year.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what year is this? Is this our second or third?
January, I think January 7th, January 10th, somewhere around that area. 2014 was our inaugural year, I think. This will be
end
our
of
third.
Our second year then, eh?
Yeah, we're almost into we'll start our third year the week we come back. We're actually going to take some time off because I've been listening to some podcasts about podcasting. It's very meta, but they said that if you are constantly putting out new episodes, people will often get behind and then don't see the reason to listen to your show. And, we've really never done a break, ever. I think we've had an episode every week for almost 3 years. So I think it's about time for us to take a little vacation proper. So that's what we're going to do. We'll be back the second week in January, the week of the 10th. Yeah, 9/10. Yeah, 9 January will be the week we come back. So what are you planning on doing this week for the holiday season here in the Americas, Mr. Boettcher?
Oh, just driving the kids around.
Yeah.
That's about it. Opening presents, stuff like that.
Yeah. This is a stressful time for me this year because I don't know what to get people. And I know that people are stressing over what to get me because, like most people, if it's less than $50, I wait a couple weeks and I get it myself, or, I just, buy it outright from Amazon. And I know that, more than once my mother's like, what do you want for dinner? What do you want for Christmas? I'm like, just give me a gift card or something, that way. I like gift cards because then nobody's unhappy. You can always buy what you want with the money you got,
There you go.
Yeah. So, before we get started with our final show of the year, I wanted to mention Hack in the Box. So, Hack in the Box, Sebastian and them emailed us, said, hey, people who are going to Hack in the Box can get a discount on the podcast when they check out. Go check out and say Breaking Security and the discount code, and that'll get you 10% on the cost of a ticket. Tickets for early bird pricing are on sale until 31 December, and if you're wanting to put in a call for papers, they will also do a discount or a stipend for you to travel there if you want to submit a paper, up to 1,250 euros, I think the email said. The conference starts, it goes from 10 to 14 April 2017, and you can find out all the submission details or any other information you want by going to cfp.hackinthebox.org. So, yeah, they actually invited us out, but it's Amsterdam in February or in April, which I'd love to go, but I actually have some things I got to do, and I can't take off that amount of time. So Amsterdam's always been on my bucket list, though. So
it'll happen one day.
Like Jack Aubrey in Master and Commander, he's like, it's not going anywhere. So I'm hoping to get there as soon as I can. So. Well, Mr. Boettcher, you said that you have something you would like to discuss. As always, you got something that's got your goat a little bit, and you wanna talk a little bit about that.
Well, I was thinking about the Yahoo breach, and people kept saying, they should have listened to their security team, et cetera, et cetera. And that's assuming the security team knew about it or knew the risks and identified them and got to the right people. So it got me thinking, well, what do you do when you identify a risk? Mm-hmm. We've been talking a lot the past 2 years, I guess, on how to find those risks, right? You run vulnerability scanners, you do, red team exercises, etc. Mm-hmm. But once you identify that risk, what do you do next? And I know that in some organizations that the security team may seem like a pain because they're always crying wolf, or they're always saying, hey, we need to fix this, we need to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
If you read the book, The Phoenix Project, the security dude in the book really isn't liked or taken seriously by the other characters in the book.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much how we're seen, I believe, by most people, that, oh, they're always wanting us to fix stuff that really doesn't need to be fixed or is a lower priority than what it really is.
Yeah.
So I think the advice is to once you identify the risk, take it in and document it in a ticketing system of record, right? Whatever the IT organization, if you're bigger than a mom and pop shop, you probably have a ticketing system for IT, because that helps them work more efficiently, prioritizing things to work on the higher priority items first.
Yeah.
And then they have documented what they need to do next. And it's great to have a ticketing system, because if the IT team uses a ticketing system effectively, they can garner metrics from it and they can justify their existence. They can say, well, we get 50 tickets a day, or we can complete 50 tickets a day, but we're getting 60.
Yeah.
We got 5 people, that's 10 tickets per person per day, but yet we're getting 60 and it's building up. So we actually need another person or two. And if this continues for a couple of years, they're going to get so backed up that things are just going to get dropped on the floor. So it helps them justify getting more people or having less people, whatever the case may be, so you don't have dead weight around, or you need more work to do based on how many tickets are coming in and how many tickets the organization is actually completing. So it's important to document these risks in a ticket for that reason. Because typically the security team isn't the ones going hands-on fixing the issue in a medium to large organization. Another thing it does is it gets that thing documented. How many times have you identified a risk and then you send an email to somebody and say, hey, we really need to fix this? Or you said, well, I'm adding it to my personal list, which we'll get to, but there's 100 things that IT needs to fix first before it gets to these other things. Yeah. That's a bad idea, in my opinion. You really need to document those in a ticket, whether it be, okay, we'll knock out these 100 items if we just upgrade the operating system. So open a ticket to upgrade the operating system, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. That would be the best way to take care of the risk in your organizations. And I'll tell you, it will help you later down the line if all these things are actually documented in the system of record, as opposed to word of mouth, email. Hey, friend, I know I found this huge thing. We got to fix this because it's, command injection in a web app or something like that. Yeah. And it's a high priority. We need to fix it. Okay. I'll tell so-and-so to get it done when he can. Right? These need to be identified in a ticketing system, because what happens if 18 months down the road, your company gets breached? There's going to be finger pointing, right? I would have to assume there's going to be finger pointing. Oh, yeah. Now, what would happen if somebody comes to you and says, it looks like, an organization came in like Mandiant, and they have identified that we had command injection in our web app, and that's how the attackers got in and they stole our data through that server. How did this happen? And you say, well, I sent an email to Joe and I told him it was a high priority and we need to fix it. And they're like, well, either Joe doesn't work here anymore, or yeah, well, what good is an email? I mean, when's the last time you saw a job description where it said, do X, Y, and Z, and you must read your email? Yeah. Right? You can't be held accountable for not reading an email.
Well, okay, so The email thing I do have, I completely agree with. When we send an email, we assume that one, it's no longer our problem because we've notified the proper people. Question, quote unquote. And a lot of times, maybe that they are extremely busy with their software cycle. Or they just noticed that the email is from the security dude and he's not going to look at it because that just means more work for him. I completely agree with the idea of the ticketing system. If that's available, there are numerous options out there. Even if you are a small shop, there are free ticketing systems that can be used. I think one of the first things that a company needs to do when, if they're doing, secure software development, or they're doing, anything where there's a security team, is implementing some kind of change management or some kind of regular meeting where you can discuss findings, where you can triage, the risk in your environment. So you can say, okay, we had this in the last product, we had, like you said, command injection, or, websites got some cross-site scripting issues in it. So that and invite security people along. So that way, when the security people are, able to explain to the developers who created it or to a manager in place, you can help, the security people are going to have to help triage the tickets, because they have to have the advocate in the meeting. Otherwise, there won't be anybody to speak towards the security issues, and they'll get pushed to the side. I know places I've worked previously, you saw that kind of behavior where if the security guys didn't make it, their tickets were never discussed. And, those were pushed to the very bottom because, anybody think this is a big deal, say something. And then there's complete silence, and then, nothing gets done with it. So being an advocate for your own, your own tickets and the risk that, you have to own that risk. If you're going to show the risk, you have to own that risk and be the manager of the risk to make sure that it gets done. And that, you advocate for that to show how, badly it is. And I think you mentioned Yahoo earlier. I think that's, I don't want to put facts out there that aren't facts. I guess that would be called falsehoods or something, but I'm sure there were people that noticed things and either decided to not say something, or if they were saying something, maybe there wasn't, enough, advocating being done at the time, and, a lot of things, or, maybe they saw the risk but didn't know the severity of the risk. That could be another thing. If you're a security person and you're, you see something and you say something, but you're not necessarily knowing how severe it could be, that could, that could be another problem as well. You may not be able to communicate the level of risk. So it would, behoove you to understand the systems involved and do a little bit of that. But yeah, I completely agree with a lot of what you were saying there. The only thing I would say is that, we can't just send emails as information security people and expect things to get done. There has, if we have risk in our companies, we need to find ways to coordinate that and have meetings, or, like you said, log it.
Yeah. And it would be in your best interest, because you never know what could happen a year down the road, and something happens and they come to you and say, well, we had X, Y, and Z, and that's what led to this entire thing. Why didn't you identify this? Why didn't you say something?
Yeah.
And you can say, instead of, well, I sent an email to Joe, you can say, well, I documented this 18 months ago, and I also followed up with an email, and I was told, quote, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah.
Things like that. And that's, you're not just throwing things over the wall. You actually create tickets, document them in your own right, whether it's through a query or you have a list. Try to prioritize them for yourself and follow up on the major ones. Mm-hmm. Right. And you may say, well, I've already got 100 of them in there and they're not doing anything. Well, first of all, you should talk to your management, because there's 100 things that that need to be done, and you've had no progress, and maybe you've had conversations with people and they blow you off, and that's something that needs to be worked out. But don't stop documenting things, because there might be that one thing that you didn't document and it ends up biting you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? So you have to, and I'm not saying create 1,000 tickets, one for every vulnerability on every site, try and lump them into, this has to be upgraded,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, I see that a lot. My company, when we do regular vulnerability scans, of course, and there'll be a new patch that comes out that affects, 1,500 boxes, or there'll be
Yeah.
Java comes out with a brand new patch, every quarter, and there's numerous Java vulnerabilities now, and there's hundreds of boxes. So it's like, do you make the ticket based on the vulnerability and then put the list of IP addresses or hosts that are affected, or do you just say patch Java on all the systems? Or it really depends on how your infrastructure works. If there's automated patching, if you're using containers, do you just have them blow away the container and rebuild a new one? That kind of thing. So the way you phrase your tickets is also very important. The way you communicate inside those tickets is also very important. If it's almost like doing a mini pen test every time. I mean, you want to have screenshots or examples from websites. Like I put US Cert's website links to the CVE numbers a lot in my tickets. I've actually, when I was showing that there was a vulnerability, say web scanner found cross-site scripting, I actually go in, I recreate that issue, I create a screencast, I create on my computer, and I saved in QuickTime and then convert it to an MKV file, and I upload that to my ticketing system. So I go, you know what? Here's the scan, cross-site scripting on the site, and here's a video of me doing the exact same thing, with the idea that being who I am, if I can recreate that vulnerability, anybody can recreate that vulnerability. So, I always try to give as much, informate, is that a word? I try to give
Yes, it
too
is.
much information in a ticket.
Okay, but most people don't have to do that. I mean, developers are pretty smart cats, right? They can figure things out too, and if they have a question, they can either Google it or ask you, and then you'll be more than willing to help them figure out, okay, what's the problem?
Yes, you should be
I'm trying to
willing.
fix it. What's the problem?
Yes, you should be willing to help if they reach out for help. I can't assume that my developers are going to Google anything, and the old saying, a crisis for you is not necessarily a crisis for me. It may be a high risk for me, and I'll come into them and I'll be all blustery and be like, oh my God, we got this thing and got to fix it. And they're like, yeah, I've got a product I got to get out tomorrow, so I can't work on that until afterwards. Oh, well, you're going to ship with this vulnerability. Yeah, no, because we already promised this customer for this. There's, that's what you run up against all the time. And, I would, that's again why you should have meetings that you may end up having to delay things. But yeah, I would, they don't always see risk in the same, with the same glasses that we do.
Right. And I, let's see, I put a link in the show notes about the Yahoo breach or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Wikipedia article, and it says it took the company a full year before hiring a dedicated CISO.
Yeah.
Alex Stamos. Yeah, so they took their time there after the breach, I guess, and it says in Wikipedia that CEO Marissa Mayer had reportedly denied Stamos and his security team sufficient funds to implement recommended stronger security measures, and he departed the company by 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know what went on behind the scenes. Maybe he asked for too much. Maybe he did ask for the right amount and he was denied. So there's a lot of he said, she said there, I'm sure. But the point is that these things have to be documented in a system of record.
Mm-hmm.
so that everybody knows without a shadow of doubt that you did identify this. And make sure that you have follow-up emails if the tickets aren't acted upon, if they aren't assigned to someone and prioritized accordingly
Yep.
to fit how you think they should be prioritized. Because you can go to meetings and you can say, look, you guys put this very low priority, but let me show you, or let me illustrate, or let me, kind of uh, try and show you so that you can understand why I believe that this is a much bigger deal than what you think it is.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is you should keep an open mind, because the reason they may have marked it low could be not necessarily because they don't care about the breach, but because there may be software protections in place. So, if you've got, iframe injection issues or vulnerabilities, if they're using a content security policy or a WAF or something that will, one, it helps to know what your infrastructure looks like. But if they have additional controls in, like anti-CSRF tokens or, CSP, or, let's say the vulnerability is, and I guess we're going to, not just vulnerabilities, but let's say there's, patches on your internal boxes. If it takes 2 or 3 levels of security to get to those, it may be a name, it may be the next Poodle or Heartbleed or whatever. But if you have to go through, a firewall with 2-factor auth, with IP restrictions, with, being able to SSH to it requires you to have special credentials. If it's a restricted LAN, those things knock, a CVE, from, a level 10 to say a level 4 fairly quickly, as long as those controls are in place. That may not be the case for everything, but you want to be open and you want to be as honest as possible. Don't try to spread a lot of FUD when you're doing so, because, it's the it's the boy who cried wolf kind of thing. If you do it so many times, they're not going to trust you. They're going to think, oh, he's just spinning up a bunch of nonsense for no reason. So make sure when you go to them that you don't go, oh, this, don't act like an Ars Technica article where it's, oh, this is the worst thing since Heartbleed or whatever. It may not necessarily be the case. If it's a local privilege escalation or something, there's a lot that's got to be done before you can even authenticate to a user on your network, I would hope.
Yeah. The point is, make sure they're documented, but calm down. Don't lose your head, because there are a lot of things there are a lot of moving parts in an organization, and security isn't the highest priority. It's more like profits and stuff. So you got to make sure that that you realize that the IT team is focused on uptime and profitability of the company, not necessarily the security of your product.
That's right.
So,
yeah, and if you can ever figure out how to turn your security into a cost saving or a cost making venture at your company, you're pretty much golden, I think, at that point. So, yeah. Very good, sir. I appreciate you remembering that finally. So when we were trying to record yesterday, and he couldn't remember what he was going to talk about, so we halted. We halted a day or 12 hours for him to remember what it was he talked about. So that was cool.
I need a personal assistant.
I know, right? I have 3. Unfortunately, she's over there laying in front of the fireplace. So all she does is sleep all day, though. So she doesn't eat much, but that's cool. So, I guess I have a little something I'd like to discuss about. I call it my open letter to C-levels, but what I was trying to get from it is that I don't know if a lot of CEOs or C-level folks, CISOs or CSOs or CTOs or anybody listen to the show. If you do, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to our show. There seem to be a lot of people, once they get to that level, the landscape changes quite a bit, and they're no longer doing the day-to-day stuff. They're not dealing with day-to-day operations. They're dealing with the overarching success of the company. And for some of those people, they seem to forget where they're, where they came from in many cases. They may have once started in the mailroom or in, as a security analyst themselves a long time ago, and moved up in the ranks through ambition and just being at the right place at the right time. And you need to remember that at one point in your career, you were the same guy who was clamoring to get the IDS that was, I would hope that you were the guy clamoring to get the IDS that was going to protect your organization, or trying to do what was necessary to shore up the environment, or explain to developers that there's vulnerabilities out there. If you're in a startup, especially, this is very applicable to you. The one thing I would suggest is that find some way to let them do their job, and do it in such a way that you can still make your profits, still help them embrace, any alternatives that are possible. If they're, free and open source, that's, fine. Not every software application needs to have a support contract. I think it's important to let, your different divisions do what they need to do to get the job done, but do it in such a way that is not, disruptive to the company.
So what's the point you're trying to get across here? You're trying to say, hey, when you do get into that position, don't forget that there are guys that really care and they're really smart. Get out of their way.
Yeah,
don't try to change what they're doing.
Try not to marginalize, your different divisions. I'm partial to security and IT and infrastructure myself, but everybody out is just trying to put out as best a product or as best a service as they can. And if you are, don't always try to deny them to doing what they're doing and what they do best. They got to where they are because of decisions that they made, just like the same decisions that you made. So yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say, Mr. Boettcher. I appreciate your help. I probably should have wrote it out because it sounded better in my head when I was taking a shower last night. So yeah.
So should we invite Amanda back on?
Well, she's got a book coming out, so yeah. So her and Lee Brotherson have a book called The Defensive Security Handbook that is out for early release on O'Reilly. If you wish to read that book, she gave a great talk at DerbyCon, so that was helpful. Unfortunately, Lee couldn't make it to DerbyCon because of work obligations, but yeah, I want him and Miss Berlin on in the very near future to discuss the book and where you can get a hold of it. So. All right. So one last thing before we go, and I don't want to take anybody else's time up. I want to do a little state of the podcast. So this year we had a bunch of fantastic discussions with people. The first of the year started off with Patrick Haim from Dropbox, talking about two-factor auth and all kinds of good stuff. We did some mainframe security podcasts with Soldier Fortran and Big Indian Smalls and Miss Encrypted on Twitter, and you can go back and look at all of those. I think one that really stood out in my mind and in Mr. Boettcher's was our Moxie versus Mechanism, our overdependence on tools in the environment, which I know Mr. Boettcher was very fond of. Let's see.
Yeah, that was a highly downloaded podcast right there.
Yeah, it was. And I think it really speaks to, a lot of what we're talking about as well, that, there's an overdependence on tools, but, it doesn't hurt to invest in humans to run those tools. So we talked to Michael Goff. We talked to Ben Cottle on application logic flaws and responsible disclosure. My favorite, I think, of the year was, of course, Mr. Hector Monseeger. That was the 11th episode of the season where we had Hector on to talk about what he'd been doing since he quit he'd left FBI custody and how he had used bug bounties to, make ends meet. That was quite eye-opening, and you got to hear a lot about how he had, been able to, get his life back together after being involved with that. Oh yeah, we had Ben Johnson on a couple times. He's from he runs an endpoint security company called Carbon Black. He's a CTO over there. Talked about endpoint data protections and threat intelligence, and then we had him on talking about leadership later in the year, which was important. Talking about cyber self-esteem, which was very good. And we just had there's a lot of podcasts that we did this year, really really good ones. Gene Kim, we had Gene Kim and Josh Corman on about DevOps. Talked to Black Owl about O-Day that he found in some routers that he was working on. And, just recently we had Gary McGraw on with Joe Gray from the Advanced Persistent Security podcast talking about building security into your SDLC. So that's, there's a whole lot of stuff on there. In the next 2 weeks, please feel free to tell a friend about our show. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. Mr. Boettcher finally got on our Slack channel. That was awesome. I'm just glad he could, finally, get on there and start talking to people. Oh, wait, he hasn't.
I figured it out.
Well, yeah. So our Slack channel in the past month, we've got over 110 people, I think, on there now. We do a lot of discussion outside of the podcast. I also started a book club so that we meet in a Google Hangout. And we do, we discuss a chapter of a book, just like if, you were sitting at home with, or sitting at somebody's house discussing it. And the first book we did was Software Security, Building Security In by Gary McGraw. Not ironically, we had him on to discuss the book on episode 48. Yeah. And he talks about how, even though it's a 10 plus year old book, it's still fairly, useful, except for chapter 2. He said throw that chapter out. But yeah, so we do it every couple of weeks. Our next one is going to be on 4 January. We're going to be discussing chapter 7. If you want to join us, you can join our Slack channel. The instructions are in our show notes, or you can go to brakesec.signup.team and sign up for an invitation to join us. We've got 150 people on there. We're doing the book club right now. Next year, I want to start the CTF group, where we're doing a lot like the book club, but we'll get on a Google Hangout and we will do a CTF or a war game together. Some people had mentioned doing some of the over the wire stuff, but there's just a bunch of stuff out there that people can learn on if you've wanted to do a little more understanding of how the pen testing concepts are, and you want to maybe even start doing CTFs on a regular basis, because those things will lead to like black badges at DEF CON and such, or a black hat. Come on in. We're going to have some mentors and some people who can help out. And if you are, a red teamer or a pen tester in your own right, feel free to join us. We could always use more mentors. So, yeah. So that's some of the stuff we're doing on our Slack channel. And, if that interests you, that would be awesome. So, Mr. Boettcher, do you have anything else you'd like to mention before we go and enjoy the holiday season here?
Well, if anybody has any ideas for podcasts and things, just hit us up on Slack or email.
Absolutely.
And we'll definitely take those into consideration, etc.
Yep.
And we can also discuss them on the channel.
Yep. What's our email there?
What do you mean? What's our email?
What's the official BrakeSec podcast email? This isn't a pop quiz.
BreakingSecurity.com.
No, that's our website.
At gmail.com.
bds.podcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
Yes, that one. Yes. So we have actually one other surprise, but we're going to wait until the first of the year to unveil it. So if you are interested in what is about to happen to the BrakeSec podcast, please come back the week of January 9th or 9 January and come check that out. So, Mr. Boettcher, for the last time in 2016, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to discuss LogMD, for instance? Hey, speaking of which, how's LogMD doing?
It's doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's come a long way in its first 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's starting to be a fully fledged IR/forensic/compliance tool.
Excellent.
If you haven't tried it, you definitely need to. All you do is kick it off on your machine and read the report, and it'll tell you, dude, you suck. Here's what to set, and try it again. Right?
Very nice.
So everything you need to know to catch hackers on a Windows machine is part of Windows.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to know how to talk to your operating system in order for it to tell you, oh, I'm infected, right?
Yeah.
You just got to speak the language. And that's all LogMD does. It tells you how to set your computer in order to catch the foo, right?
Very nice. And you were telling me last night about some Windows internals I'd never even heard of before. So I wouldn't hate on talking about some of those Windows internals on a future podcast. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to line out an interview with somebody who deals a lot with Windows internals. I'm hoping they will speak to me. But yeah, I'd love to. What was some of the things you were talking about? Amcache or something like that?
Amcache.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Amcache, Amcompat, cache, shrum, right? All these things. And then, of course, you can find auto runs. We're implementing auto runs right now. It's probably 80% there, okay. 75%. Yeah.
Very nice.
We'll be releasing that in January. So,
okay.
So yeah, maybe I'll do a instructional video or something.
There you go. Yeah, I'd love to do some more videos. We did those like the first year we were here, and people enjoyed those. I still get people hitting up some of the videos, so maybe we'll do some more of that. So, all right, so let's get back on track. How would people get a hold of you if they wanted to talk about the podcast or ideas, or just on Twitter at all, or maybe talk about Little LogMD?
Hit me up on Twitter. My handle is @BoettcherPwned, BoettcherPwned.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and IMF Security is your website?
That's right, imfsecurity.com.
All right. So you can always follow the BrakeSec podcast. You can hit us up at our Twitter is @BrakeSec, BrakeSec. You can also follow me, Brian Brake. I'm @Brian Brake, BryanBrake. We have our Slack channel, like I said. If you go to HTTPS brakesec.signup.team, you can get an invite to join us over there. We have a lot of fun on that channel. We have a number of channels. We actually have a job board now. So if you have jobs that you're either looking for a job or you have a job to post, you can do that as well. I just put that up a couple days ago. Email is, of course, bds.podcast@gmail.com. We are pretty much everywhere you can get podcasts at. Stitcher, we're on SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio. We have a Facebook page that I do irregularly post podcasts to. I need to be better at that, and hopefully I will next year. So we're a couple of behind on the Facebook. But if you hit TuneIn Radio app or Stitcher or Player FM or any of those, Play Store, or on the Google Play Store and iTunes, if you are a fan of the iTunes, we would enjoy any and all feedback you could give us. We also have a Patreon. Last year this year we raised almost $500 in our Patreon. I didn't use any of it to support the podcast. Probably should, but I didn't. I will probably donate that to a charity of some note, either Hackers for Charity, probably some of it to that or something else. And I'll let everybody know on a video where all that ended up going for full transparency. But if you want to give us, a little something in the tip jar there, you can hit us up on Patreon. Just search for Breaking Down Security and Patreon on Google, and you can find us there. So, all right. Well, the last show of 2016 is in the bag. I feel weird about taking vacation because, I've gone on vacation 2 weeks. I went 2 weeks to South America in February. We still had shows going, and Yeah, it felt weird, deciding to, take the time off. I say take the time off. We're not actually going to have an actual podcast next week. I may have a 5 to 10 minute thing on, stuff in the news or just some brain droppings I thought of over the holiday season, that kind of thing. We're not going to do any predictions because, nobody remembers them, and, most of them are wrong anyway. So, Mr. Boettcher, I don't say it enough, but I really appreciate you. And you Breaking Security podcast would not be what it is without you. And I appreciate you. So.
Well, I appreciate you too.
There you go. All right. I was hoping for that. I was hoping for the back part there. So, I guess that was it for the 2016 part of Breaking Down Security. Everyone have a great week and holiday week and rest of the year, and we will talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.